Hello and welcome to the Tufunzeni Podcast. This is a space where we discuss education matters. I am your host, Roselyne Ogaye. On this episode, we'll be discussing the evolving role of educators in the digital age. To my right?
Tobias Obura.
And Sagao Clearance.
Thank you so much for joining this episode. Now, what does digital integration mean to you, Sagao?
Digital integration, I think for me in terms of learning, it means incorporating technology in learning on how to prepare lessons, how to present lessons, how to involve learners in using technology basically in learning. So basically is how you involve technology in learning.
What about Tobias?
I agree with Sagao. Integrating technology just helps us to amplify learning. There's a lot of learning that we can do, but technology enables us to go deeper and wider and have a richer resource that we can tap in to help the learning process. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, with the digital integration in our classroom, can we have a discussion on how have you seen technology in education evolving over the years?
Yeah, I would maybe take us back to 2019 when we had COVID. I think that is when we experienced an exponential growth in use of technology, not just in classroom, but also outside of classroom. But before that, it was most of the time a matter of how we use slides presentation in class. And then during 2019, when COVID came, we had to think about how can we now still teach while we are facing this challenge of being at home. And yeah, that is how I would say technology, ICT integration into learning has evolved from simple presentation to in classes to teaching from homes, and also integrating other aspects of gamification, for example, which I know maybe at some point you're going to talk about it, but it has really evolved from just using slides on the board to collaborative learning from home to school, and also communication, from using emails to using so many apps that can actually involve parents in terms of communication.
So a lot has happened, especially from the period of COVID.
Yes, I would say yes.
Yeah, COVID was an interesting time. We felt like we've been thrown into the deep end of things. Because 1 minute you're in school. I remember that time Mr. Sagao and I were actually in the same school.
Oh.
So we close school today, and then tomorrow everybody's supposed to be 5 meters away from each other, and teachers can't interact with students. So it was really an interesting moment for all of us.
Yeah.
What I would say about the evolution, it's like we are coming from what I would call a silo into a solvent. A silo in terms of, you remember from the early days of computer studies, it was done in the lab. You only do it if you're doing computer science. But today, technology is in every subject, and every teacher is applying technology in whatever they do. So for me, we've come from that silo into a solvent that everybody gets to interact with.
So it's no longer just a computer lab thing. So you're no longer just interacting with the technology when we're dealing with or when we're doing ICT, but rather in all aspects, even if you're doing art and other subjects. That's what you imply?
Exactly. And as a teacher, the whole workflow from thinking about what you're going to teach, creating your lesson plan, creating your resources, going into that lesson, teaching it. Then after the lesson, you have to figure out what have we learned, and then you have to analyze the data and get back to your students and plan for another lesson. So at each of those levels, we are involving technology in different ways.
So then, if we involve technology in all our aspects of learning, then we also need to think about how this technology is enhancing our teaching and learning. in the classroom now. So, Mr. Sagao, can you just tell us, how do you think that the incorporation of ICT or any digital technology in learning can enhance students' engagement and their outcomes?
It's a tricky, I think, balance, I would say. Definitely there is a lot of engagement, like you're calling it out, but there is a very tricky balance between, engaging learners with technology, but also it could cause, a sort of a distraction. So as an educator, you really need to find that balance. So it is not like it will just work, from the word go. You have to really be intentional about what is the goal of using this technology, because as a teacher you still have a place to play in the learning process, because at the end of the day, yes, you are teaching, but is learning taking place? I want to give an example. Imagine if we allowed our students to have laptops and phones in our class. We might be turning a class into an amusement park. So we really have to be really intentional about this. But to your question, how do we do this? The first, I think, aspect of which will be intentional about it. Set out the objectives right, like where are you going to involve technology in the learning? There is a place of technology in learning and in teaching, but there is also a place of just making sure that students also involve in creative thinking on their own. Because if we are not careful with that, it might take away that critical thinking, creative thinking of learners. So AI, which is part of integrating technology into learning and teaching, is great, but we have to be objective about it. One of the ways I think we use technology, or we could use technology, and many schools are doing this, many teachers are doing this, is one of the things I normally call gamification. Nowadays, our children, I think we have raised them in an environment where they love playing, they love games.
Sure.
And you can bring that in class, and you can integrate some of these, plays in classroom, including things to do with Kahoot. We have examples like Kahoot or quizzes, which they really love. And they get really much engaged when they are, connected to something they are, accustomed to, something like play. But just being careful so that you don't turn the classroom into an amusement park. Yeah, that is one of the ways I would say gamification.
Oh, that's interesting. What about Mr. Tobias? Your take?
Yeah, my take would be the key is to identify which tool you need to achieve what objective in the classroom. That for me, would be the easiest way to manage the engagement with technology, because not every tool will help you in the classroom to achieve the objectives that you need to achieve. You could, an example, if students are doing a project and you want them to present that project, they could do a podcast like what you're doing now, to share their insights and explain to the team what they have been doing, the learnings from it. So then the podcast then becomes a tool that can help the students to be really engaged. But if we don't identify those tools, and like Mr. Sagao was saying, we have to be intentional, then we can run into a situation where there are too many tools for us to use, and you keep trying this and trying that and trying that, and that might not be very helpful when you're trying to achieve the level of engagement of students. So I would say identify a tool to achieve a specific objective, and that would help us to have the right engagement.
Yeah. And just maybe to add on something on what Mr. Obura has highlighted, these tools, yes, you identify them, but we have different levels of engagement. Even amongst teachers, I think there is an aspect of LMS sort of systems that we can employ at a leadership level, at a school level. Things to do with Google Classroom, things to do with Teams, Microsoft Teams, things that can actually just help even teachers collaborate in terms of planning. So it is not just using, that ICT in classroom or rather technology in classroom. It can also be used outside of classroom, just during the planning process. It goes all the way to the extent to parents' communication. Initially, even in terms of reporting performance of students, we would do manual report cards. Nowadays, we have shifted that.
Yeah.
We moved, like we talked about evolution, how that has evolved. It was manual report cards. You would have someone filling in, and then go home with a report card. And then it changed to a place where now we are doing Excel sheets, and those Excel sheets, most of us didn't know how to use the formulas. But it has really evolved. Now we have students' information systems that integrate all these aspects of a school, including behavior, communication, and all that. So there is just a lot we can use technology to enhance learning, because learning is not just about curriculum, delivery in class. It's also about behavior management. And through that, it encompasses a holistic, way of, handling learning in classroom and also out of classroom. So it enhances learning, but it doesn't replace the teacher.
Important.
It can't. It doesn't replace the teacher. That's very
Yes.
important, as Obura echoes it. But now we see that something that is coming clear from this is that however much we want to use technology to bring liveliness in our classroom, there is something that Mr. Sagao has mentioned about the distraction. So these technology tools, if we do not use them well, then it is clear that they can take us away from whatever we want to achieve in our lesson. Then now can I just get this clear, Mr. Sagao? How then can I as a teacher or any other teacher watching this ensure that he or she is using technology to just get to the concept that he or she wants the learners to get without learners getting distracted from the lesson?
Let me start from, I think, from a point where we all agree AI is here with us. It's here to stay. It's part of what we are talking about. It's not going anywhere, and we need to appreciate that fact. But at the same time, research has shown from, countries like Norway, Sweden, Finland, that technology could also present a very huge challenge if it is not monitored or if it is not used in a controlled way. And also from a psychological development point of view, I think when you expose learners, also it depends on the levels of, the students in terms of maturity, how their brain has developed through the years. Because if you expose learners to technology at a very young age, you are overstimulating them in terms of learning. So it comes to certain content, when you want them to do certain things like project, and they have to do a lot of, processing information and putting down, projects, it becomes a huge, hindrance. So to manage that, I think the very first thing is, like I said, it has to be intentional. And Mr. Obura alluded to it. You have to set the objectives right. We are using this tool at what point, even in a lesson. Like, you don't just go to class and you say, we are now going to use laptops or phones to do. No, it has to be intentional. This part of the lesson, we are learning maybe through collaboration, and then there is a part where we might introduce technology. So it shouldn't be replacing the whole learning process and replacing the teacher or replacing the materials that we would rather use to enhance other, cognitive or metacognitive skills in the learners. So I think intentionality is very, very important.
Mr. Obura, will you share with us some other ways that we can ensure that?
I think I agree with the thoughts about being intentional. And different tools have their own, they present advantages that we can take care of. In my teaching journey, I have been in schools that have bigger challenges of access. You're in a school where we are still doing report cards by hand, like Mr. Sagao had said earlier. And so you have tools like Microsoft Excel that are easily available that you can take advantage of. That is one of them. But there are also schools that have no problem with access. So theirs is now the variety. We have all these tools available for us. You have a learning management system that can take care of your reporting, etc. How then do you use it to increase the rigor in your classes? Technology can help you as a teacher to think about bigger tasks that you can give your students in class. And with it, you can develop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 resources that you can be using in class. So identifying your strengths and identifying the opportunities that are there will be the first step. And then do not let technology replace the need for your students to think. That is a very easy thing to miss. Whatever activities you create, always make sure that the student is doing something, thinking, working, creating, writing, reporting, seeing, visualizing things, it is important that we make sure that that is taken care of, because if we don't, then technology could be doing everything for our students, and that is not what we want out of it.
Okay, and as we think about yes, the teacher setting the objectives right, and you have your boundaries, and you've said this is at this point of the lesson, this is where we are going to bring the technology. But let's also remember that there's still those other students who will just get carried away with these gadgets that we bring in class. There could be some that who are really not going to do as you may want as a teacher. So how then can you help such learners in such a situation whereby you've set everything clear from the start, you introduce the gadget at the right time in that particular lesson, but yet there's this other group of students who are still just distracted?
So there are so many ways in which, like I said, we can control the use of technology. One of the ways, I think there are systems in place where the school can actually have a back-end sort of mechanism to, stop certain access to certain instruments like social media, which mostly students might want to access. So even if they have the gadget, they might not be able to access, first of all, internet. And then secondly, maybe certain platforms that could distract them. That is one way of looking at it. Another way is just setting the expectations right. Because as a teacher, like I said, it is one thing to have the, this technology, but it's another thing to know how to use it and implement them in class. So one of the ways you could do is actually setting the expectations right. Just make sure you have an agreement, and it should be through collaboration, because these are young people who are even maybe more versed with the technology than we are, maybe at our age. So just thinking on how you can set those expectations in collaboration with the learners. Sit down, come up with, a roadmap on how we are going to use this technology in class. If there is breach of, those expectations, then there must be a very clear, consequence, logical consequence to it. It could be maybe retrieving and keeping the gadget for some time, so that they understand next time you use it, this is what is going to happen. So, and I've seen schools do that. There are even some schools which have introduced a certain agreement, and actually parents and students actually sign, and the gadget could be taken for a week or even for a month until the end of the term. So it is just important that you have a very tight expectation that could guide the students in using the technology right. I think the last thing is just setting the right culture. There is also a way in which we could also train our students or our learners, and even teachers. It's not just about learners. It could also be with the teachers.
Yeah.
Teachers could actually misuse technology. So as much as you are looking at the person who is seated and using the technology, as a teacher, I should also ask myself, am I setting the right example? Am I modeling how to use technology right? So it's all about setting expectations and having the right culture. It all starts with the culture of a school. And I think from there, everything else is just a matter of let's agree on how to use this and when to use this. Yeah. So culture is also very, very important.
So ideally, it goes beyond just the teacher and the students. As you've talked about collaboration, we can have, when we're setting the school culture, then we need the school directors, we need everybody in the management on board, just to make sure that we are helping even the teachers in the classroom. Because as you've said, some of these are locking some of these apps so that learners are not able to access them. This might not necessarily be a teacher's job, but now it means that we are calling on the school management and everyone at large, so that we develop that school culture. So the teacher knows that when they go to class and we're supposed to use this particular app, then YouTube and other apps that are not in use for that particular lesson will not be functional.
Yes.
I think that's what I'm getting from it.
Absolutely.
So any school manager that is also listening to this, we know that we have our role to play in these. If we want to make sure that we curb this, and we make sure that we are very intentional on our use of ICT or integration of the digital tools in our classroom. So that was really, really wonderful on that.
Can I add something to that?
Sure, you can.
I think we are getting to a point where the teacher has to wear that hat as well.
Okay.
Because if you're in class and there's an application you're using, there's a platform that you're using, you need to know the ins and outs of that platform. You need to know the ins and outs. That is only when you can either catch or realize where students are going off task or not. Because as a teacher, if you do not have that knowledge, then you could be thinking things are working. But our students are more tech savvy than we were when we were their ages. So they can have one app against you. So as teachers, we also need to engage with all these tools. Don't be afraid of AI. Don't be afraid of venturing into all these things. Understand how they are, understand their strengths, so that you know the potential for their misuse, so that you're always prepared for that in case it happens. So teachers cannot sit back and say somebody else is in charge of making sure we don't go to these different sites. So it's a call to all of us as teachers to also just up our game and make sure that we are ready for our students in our classes.
Hi everyone, I'm Moureen Munene.
Thank you, Moureen. Moureen, let's also hear your view on how we can ensure that technology supports pedagogy without distracting learners.
Okay, so from my own perspective, when you talk about technology and education, you're trying to bring like a woman and a man together. So of course, when you're talking about education, you're coming with your own models or your own rules. And also when you're bringing technology, you're also bringing in your own rules. So when you bring EdTech, that's one big family. So in EdTech, I believe there are a lot of models that can really help you to merge pedagogy and your classroom and your technology. So the first method, I love two methods. The first one is called the TPAC. So TPAC method is whereby you use technology. Okay, you merge technology, your content, and your pedagogy. So let's say, for example, I want to teach something like the solar system. That is in geography. So you ask yourself, what content do I want to teach my students? So you want them to know that in the space we have the sun, we have the Mars. So you also want them to know their size. So that's the content. So you also ask yourself, what the knowledge, what pedagogy am I going to use? So you know your learners very well. So for example, my learners, I can say they are more visual students. So I'll use something that is going to help me or that is going to help them visualize more on the solar system. So then you go now to the technology. So what technology tool will I use? So you can use maybe the NASA space, you can use YouTube videos. So you see, that's one model that is going to guide you to having the best tool to use. Now we have so many. We have the SUMMER model. We also have the PICRAT. So PICRAT now is trying to balance between the student. Are the student becoming interactive in the technology, or are they just becoming just like some doozers, or So that is what I would say. So when you're using education and technology, look for that one model that really, really works for you. Because for me, what works for me is TPAC. So I understand what content am I going to teach. What knowledge or what pedagogy? Am I going to use discussion? Am I going to use questions? Am I going to use visual? And then I ask myself then, out of so many technologies we have in the world, which one will I choose? So that is what I would say.
Interesting. So trying to figure out these, then we are also seeing that this technology can cause some challenges to teachers and also the students at large. Can we now talk about the challenges that the use of technology can cause? For example, we've talked about distraction in the classroom. So what are other challenges that teachers might face while they're integrating technology in class?
Okay. You want to go first?
No worries.
Yeah, right. Okay. So I think one of the things Mr. Tobias alluded to earlier on was access. And access is in many forms. It could be access to, the software. It could be access to, the hardware. It could be access even in terms of just simple things like in the village where there is no electricity, you have a gadget, but you can't use it. It could be access to Wi-Fi. So access it comes in so many different ways. So that would be one of the challenges that it's infrastructural in nature, Another challenge could be in terms of, the skill that maybe some of us, or most teachers, and in most schools, they have not been trained enough to deal with this technology. Deal with it in terms of, do they really understand how to use it? Because the students are in a space whereby they are able to use this technology. They can circumnavigate, around so many things, that involves technology. But as teachers, have we been trained to do that? So it's also about training. Like she alluded to pedagogy. And I think that is where teachers should always be on the lookout in terms of like learning we are always long-term learners, ever learning. So as a teacher, are you ready to learn? Are you ready to challenge yourself and immerse yourself in this new, ocean of, technology and be able to use that technology in teaching? So those are maybe the two challenges I would call out. There are so many other challenges, but I'll let her maybe speak about, more of it. Yeah.
Oh, all right, thank you. So what I would say, I think it all comes from inside. Like, do you have the interest? You see, if you're told you don't have the interest, why would you learn? Like, why would you push yourself to wanting to know maybe something like the Kahoot? So honestly speaking, I would say, as long as a teacher doesn't have that interest, or your class, they don't have that interest, or you're trying to show them Google Classroom and maybe they know something else better, they're not interested. So of course, lack of interest. So I would say lack of interest, according to me, is the major challenge. So as long as a teacher is not interested, no matter what you do to him or her, you're nothing. So lack of interest.
So you've picked lack of interest. We're seeing teachers maybe not being so familiar with some of these tools that we may want them to use. But then let's also think about the schools that are, they do not have these facilities. They're under-resourced. So you'll find that in a classroom, because this, I think it should also be a challenge for a teacher. You're in a classroom of maybe 50 students and you have maybe 3 or 4 gadgets to use. I think that should also be a challenge.
Lack of resources.
I think speaking about that, there's another big challenge, bigger than the teacher and even the schools. I think it's also governments and institutions, that are, taking care of, for example, in Kenya, KICD. I think when they're designing the curriculum, they must have a place for that. And even as in our colleges, I think they must also introduce a curriculum, or rather a course, that actually empowers teachers to know how to use this technology as they move into this new era, because it's very important. Because it's one thing to give you a tool to use, but it's another thing for me to train you. Then how am I going to hold you accountable in using a certain tool that I've not trained you? I have to train you first before I discipline you. So for me, it's all about starting from, the government, from colleges, like from big institutions, on how this can be rolled out. She has mentioned something about interest, which is, it's cool. I agree with her. It's okay. Interest is important, but that is at a personal level.
Yes.
But you're talking about an institution. It has policies and I think guidelines. So for me, it's also about institutions just taking it upon themselves to design CPDs or other sessions in which they can orient their staff. And in this case, when I say staff, it includes even those who are not working directly in the classroom, but those who are like making sure that this thing is being, rolled out and it is working in institutions. So just coming up with CPDs to train teachers, it should be a policy and it should be continuous, because like you've seen, it's evolving. So whenever we have a new thing in the market, let's learn it. Let's make it a policy as a school and teach it.
And you mentioning the government also makes me think about the schools in the villages, because now you see now in schools where there is no electricity, so even access to internet becomes a problem or a challenge. The gadgets, if they feel that they need to be charged. And most of them are using solar panels. And you can imagine on rainy seasons, what would that mean to a teacher who had prepared for that lesson? So do you think then that the schools in urban setups have a way advantage over the schools in the rurals? And how then can we try, or what will be your call to action to be taken for these schools that are also in the remote area, so that they also experience some of these things, the tools that we are talking about today?
Infrastructure, that's what I would call out. Infrastructure is a very key thing. But also beg to differ in terms of the schools in urban centers, like will do better in using technology. Could be true, maybe 60, 70%, but technology always fails. You might, come up with the best lesson, having integrated all this, or intentionally you want to use this and this, but then it fails. So for me, it is not even a matter of like, it is okay, it's an issue, the access could be an issue, but then it also boils down to the teacher, because you are the teacher. So what creative ways can you employ in class when this technology fails, for example, or when you don't access this technology? So collaborative, I think, use of technology could also work. where instead of having, let's say, every student accessing to a laptop or to a phone for whatever technology you want to employ in class, it could be through collaborative learning. We could also do what we call benchmarking. I think schools normally share ideas, and I believe students can visit other schools that also have these technology. Schools can come together and come up with a lab, pull together resources and come up with a lab. So there is always a way in which you can collaborate. I think the greatest invention of human beings is collaboration. And that is what has put us where we are right now. Aside, other things that we've come up, collaboration is a very, very powerful tool. That's why I always tell people collaborate. So,
and I'm really impressed with the part that you've talked about professional developments in using these technologies, especially for teachers who are not so well conversant with the technology or the tech world. But then how best can institutions do these? Because when you talk about having professional developments, I think a number of schools do these. Teachers are sent to do these courses, or there are a number of them online. You're asked to do these. But how best can schools do it to make sure that whatever the teacher learns or gets from there is supporting what they're doing in the classrooms? Because you'll find that, yes, a teacher has been trained on this, but there are no resources.
Sure.
So this teacher is left like, I have the knowledge, but I have the skill, but I can't use it. So how can schools then support these professional developments and make sure that whatever teachers are gaining, whatever skills they're getting, they are very effectively used in class?
All right, so allow me to answer your question by I myself imagining as if I'm the principal maybe of a certain big school. So of course, one thing I would do is, first of all, I make the resources available. That one is number one. So the other thing I would also do is I would try to be creative enough, because in as much as I'll tell or I'll bring the people to train my teachers about professional development and these courses, at the end of the day, not every teacher will get out of that door saying that I've learned something. So maybe I would come up with creative things, like I would say, today is maybe Jamboard week. So that week, we are dedicating ourselves on learning something called Jamboard. And then at the end of the week, maybe we have a review. What did you find interesting in the Jamboard? How do you use Jamboard? Maybe the next month, I would say this month, our main theme or our main aim is to learn about Kahoot and quizzes. They just match maybe two technologies together. So by that, you see, teachers are like eager to know, like everyone is doing. And there's one thing with human being, as long as you see someone is doing something repetitively or everyone else is doing, you're going to do it. You're just forced to do it. So if I'm the principal of that school, of course, I'd have to provide the resources. And then, of course, PD courses. And I advise them. I tell them how good it is. And then, of course, now the challenges and something else, because we all are human beings. When it comes to motivation, when us Kenyans, we like money. So so probably I'd motivate someone by if they get a lot of maybe concept, if they learn a lot, I say maybe I'm going to give you a voucher. By that, you're motivating more teachers to learn things. And once you motivate more teachers, they're going to use them in the classroom. So you tell them, if you use this maybe Jamboard for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks and I see it's effective, there's a prize for you. You never know, maybe it's a pen.
Oh, motivation.
So
Motivation. Motivation
who doesn't love
key.
money?
But do you think motivation really sticks?
Of course, it doesn't stick. Of course, that one is obvious, because there's a time when you do it more oftenly, it just gets boring. But then the aspect of you're making it a challenge, like a departmental challenge. Maybe the Department of Chemistry, go learn about virtual labs. Tell us how you're going to do them. And maybe at the end of the day or at the end of the week, we come together as a class or as a class. Oh God. As a teachers, you train us for 15 minutes. That's something.
Yeah, I love the idea of challenge rather than motivation. I would go with challenge rather than motivation, because someone said, I don't know who, but at the end of motivation, actually there is nothing at the end of motivation. Because if it's taken away, then you are going either back to square one or even negative, whatever.
But
so it could start from there. But then if it doesn't stick, then you have to find ways in which you can sustain it, because I don't think motivating teachers with money or vouchers and all that might be sustainable. Yeah, you have to keep on doing that. And human beings, like you've said, motivation always has a rigor. Today you do level 1, tomorrow they want level 2 and all that. So
Yeah, it's-
sustainability could
Yeah,
become an
sure,
issue.
sure.
But the challenge, I like the challenge, and I want to maybe share something on that from the point whereby I would say the challenge should be data-based. You've done research on how technology, is important and how vital it is. So based on research, based on data, and how it is impacting learning and the outcomes are there, they could see it. There is the 2080 Pareto law, where you don't have to involve everyone, but you could start from a departmental level, like she said. When you
Yes.
talk about chemistry level or math level, start from there, see the difference, then mirror it to other departments. I think that would also, inspire teachers to want to do it because they have seen a significant change or impact in a certain department.
Sure.
So maybe that is now the motivation. Or the
Motivation,
challenge.
comes in many ways. It can be money, it can be
Yeah.
pen, even doing the 15 minutes video presentation.
Even
That's
a
also-
promotion.
Even a
is you're
promotion.
motivated,
Even
yeah.
2 mandazis, that's motivation.
Now, let's now look at this, because from this discussion, we've mentioned a number of things. We've mentioned the AI tools, we've mentioned the visual reality tool, we've mentioned gamification. But I want us to look at these tools now in maybe 5-10 years to come. Mr. Sagao, how do you think that these tools will help shape the face of education?
I don't think we are that far much from it. 10 years,
It's a lot.
it's a
It's
lot.
a lot.
5 years?
5 years, even
Yeah,
a lot. I would say with the current, evolution, and I would even say it's revolution now, of AI and use of technology, we are looking at maybe a year or two. And some schools, even right now, have, like I called it out, have stopped actually the use of phones in schools because they have seen the damage it causes, to learning. There are wins, of course, but they're trying to figure out, before we really go full scale on use of technology, use of, phones and AI in classes and in teaching, what is the best practice? And I think for me, looking ahead, futuristic speaking, not putting a timeline to it, I would say AI is here to stay. Technology has to stay. We just need to be ready for it. And being ready for it could be, if we are not challenging ourselves enough, creating the interest to learn, like she said, then we are going to be left behind. Some schools are actually 30 years ahead of some countries, not schools, but some countries are 30 years ahead of other countries in terms of use of technology. And you can see the leap that it has, not just in classroom, but even outside in terms of, the market, jobs and all that. So for me, the danger is if we do not embrace it, we are going to be left behind. That is the danger. So we just have to embrace technology, but in a more controlled and benign way, because we could lose it. Yeah.
Maureen?
Well, what I would say, in as much as you're saying that technology is in us, teachers believe that it's coming to replace them, unfortunately. But the reality is it's not replacing anyone. It's only replacing that someone who is not prepared. So as a teacher, if at all you're not prepared for this technology, it is going to replace you and you won't like it. So what something else I also want to talk about now is the future of AI. I imagine a world whereby, in as much as schools are refusing students to come with phones, so imagine you're just wearing goggles and then you're into the space, into the sea, seeing the fish, seeing the caves inside the ocean. You see, there's this famous DJ Afro called DJ Afro. When you're watching his movies, you're seated here, but he takes you to Mumbai. So that's how I see technology. That's how I see maybe the virtual reality concept. So maybe I'm teaching a concept on chemistry. And I'm there telling students, an atom has electrons. So imagine them wearing the goggles, the VR goggles, and then they're seeing the electrons bouncing. That is nice. Of course, the student will be, oh my God, teacher, see that one. But then if you don't embrace that technology, if you don't get ready for that technology, we're not going to use it. Like, for example, look at just schools in China. What are schools in China doing? And then now compare us in Kenya. So you see, technology is coming to help in a big way, in as much as it's going to affect a lot of things. But the good thing, the positives
It's
are high.
At high.
Yeah.
It-
May I just add something to that? In terms of effectiveness and efficiency, 100%.
100%, yeah.
And like she said, you travel the world
Mhm.
without actually being there physically.
Yeah.
Through augmented reality, virtual reality, and all that. There is a lot you can actually learn. There are certain simulations you can do even in class, and students could understand certain concepts even without being in a lab
Yeah.
or without being. That is true.
Sure.
But then the danger could be also in terms of plagiarism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there is a lot of plagiarism,
Plagiarism.
and you want a student to answer. I saw a very funny video, I think on TikTok. Someone was using, I think it was an enhanced pen where they could read a question using that pen, and it just,
Gives you the
gives what?
answer.
The answer. You can see how that is dangerous. If you
Yes.
really want someone, let's say, to succeed in a certain field and they used AI to cheat on exams, and then we are going to have, people graduating, let's say, with, distinctions, but they
Yeah.
to actually.
The skills is not
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
Yeah.
So they have not gained the skill. So for me, it could also take away creativity. It could take away creativity because we could be used to this high and stimulus way of learning, and then we are not able to sit down and relax and think. So just taking away that creativity and critical thinking could be also a danger. So it's in a way, like she said, we have to really embrace it, but be ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be ready for it. How can we embrace it but not lose also?
All the focus.
Exactly.
What we're getting.
It's just the
Because-
same way people misuse ChatGPT. You're doing assignment. Like
No one
literally
wants to think.
Hey, even hey,
No one
anyway,
wants to
even
think.
ChatGPT is just another. Oh God, ask ChatGPT and it will tell you. But anyways,
So let's also hear from Mr. Obura. What's your take?
I'm a big fan of
ChatGPT.
not just ChatGPT, but all the generative AI
chatbots.
applications that we have. And I know there's a big question about creativity, but what is creativity? What is creativity? If you have used these AI tools, if you just sit there and tell it to do something for you, it will not do exactly what you want it to do. So even interacting with all these AI tools, you have to know how to prompt.
them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And doing a good prompt, you have to think.
Yeah.
What are you going to type? What are you going to tell it? What detail are you going to give it? So at that level, I see creativity in using digital tools. I teach business studies. And just a few weeks back, I was with my year 10 class, and we are talking about financial ratios. So we talk in class, and then I give them some work to do. So I actually used Gemini to create an app that can help the students just punch in the numbers. You give them the revenue, you give them the cost of goods sold, and then you give it the selling price, and it can help you to calculate the ratios. The exercise there was not denying the students the chance to calculate these ratios, but to interpret those ratios. So I just needed them to interpret the ratios. And to interpret ratios, you just need the ratio, and then you figure out what does this mean for us. So as a teacher, you can still find a way of using AI, taking advantage of the capabilities. You need to know how to prompt. And that's why earlier on I'd said, as teachers, we cannot sit back and not interact with these tools.
Sure.
Yeah.
But as we do that, we create learning experiences for our students that would help bring out the creative thinking, the critical thinking aspects. Create a project, go to ChatGPT, browse for ideas. I want my students to have a project on this topic. What are some of ideas that you could help me to come up with? Again, it all depends with the strengths of your prompt.
Sure.
You can prompt these things to do anything you want for you.
Sure.
For me, you have to really think seriously and be intentional about which tool you want to use and for what purpose, and take advantage of that. If you're a teacher, you need to write your lesson plans. How can I prompt Gemini, for example? It's my favorite. How can I prompt Gemini to create for me a lesson plan that will help me achieve 1, 2, 3 objectives? Then look at that lesson plan and say, will this work for me? If it doesn't work, go back to Gemini and prompt it further and tell it, no, could you improve this? Could you replace this with another activity? So that once you feel comfortable with your lesson, and then you also think about the resources. So in one sitting, in 4-10 minutes, you could create 2 lesson plans or 3 with 5 different sources, and even use Notebook LM to create a podcast to help your students understand your stuff. So good things, you need to know how to use it. That requires a skill.
And one thing I've loved from that is look through the lesson plan that the AI tool has generated for you. Because I think that's another place where most teachers, we fail. We've prompted it so well, and then it has generated the lesson plan. And especially if we do it for the management, or whoever is ahead of us, our immediate supervisor. So you'll find that even a teacher cannot follow their lesson plan. So I love that the aspect of look through the lesson plan, whatever has been generated. See what is there that you might need, maybe modified, so that it meets your standards, it meets your objective, your whatever you want to achieve. So that's very nice. But now let's also look at this. We have technology in the classroom, as we've seen, and there is the privacy aspect. How do we ensure then that, remember, the students we are dealing with, most of them are minors, especially those who are teaching, if you're teaching up to maybe Form 3, Form 2, or whatever, you'll get 16, 17. For those doing maybe a British system, you'll still get a 16-year-old. Those are the ones in year 11 or 12. Then now, how do we then make sure that the students' data is private and it's not leaked out? Because that's also another thing. We're the ones that are supposed to safeguard these learners, and we're the ones bringing technology into classroom. And we know what can happen online when we expose them. So what do you think, in your view, Moureen, that schools can do to ensure that there is data privacy?
I think the first thing that schools should do, is by, first of all, let the staff, let the teachers, let the students know what is data privacy. Because so many people, they don't know what's that. And then let them know what is digital citizenship. And then from there, now let also parents know. You're going to use technology into this school. So these are some rules and guidelines. Like, just have clear consent from the parents. But when first of all teach them, let them know what is data privacy, they'll actually know, should I not? So they'll know, rather than just saying, oh, we just sign this form, and maybe that parent doesn't know what is just signing. Exactly. So I'd say students, parents, teachers, everyone in that school, in that institution, let them know what is data privacy. And then from there, get clear consent from parents. Because you don't want issues in the internet at you used my child photo for this. No, that's what I would say.
Mr. Obura, how old you?
Yeah, totally agree with that. We need to have a policy that schools adopt, and that policy should be very clear to everyone involved. But I could also say that such guidelines exist. There are schools, like, for example, the international schools, they ascribe to certain global standards on data privacy that when the school is being set up, they have to adhere to. So there's some that level of control. I think even locally, we also have an act on data privacy and protection that every school needs to be aware and need to find ways of enforcing. It is a must that we have to involve our parents so that they also know what information is being used and for what purpose. So it is important that everyone who's involved in this AI space is alive to the data protection policies that are available, and schools can come up with their own internal guidelines. Earlier on, Mr. Sagao had mentioned about when students are found misusing their gadgets, it can be taken away. That's a very simple example of how schools can have a tech policy and which data protection is part of it. So the international standards are available. We also have our own local standards, but schools can also come up with their own. And since we were talking about AI earlier, I think there's a very concerted effort globally so that schools can have a framework on how to manage AI and the interaction with it. There is even thought of having an assessment scale because we give students essays to write. You don't know whether that essays were generated by ChatGPT or any of the AI tools. But because we are able to tell that this content was generated by ChatGPT, do you want to totally blame the students or punish them for that? We could say, okay, because they are using ChatGPT, because they are using these generative AI tools, do we have a grading or an assessment criteria that will also grade for the use of AI tools so that it's not a demon, but it is something that, yes, we size it up, we know what it can do, but then if you're presenting work that has been AI generated, then we probably need to appreciate you for writing a very good prompt. But we cannot give you but we cannot give you points for the outcome because we know that it was assisted by AI. So just finding a way, as Mr. Sagao had said, finding a way to minimize, to make a balance between the two.
Equilibrium.
Absolutely.
And I think on that data privacy, this is something that maybe most teachers, we don't take it into consideration a lot, especially when we're using these tools, because we run for the tools, but we don't look at the dangers that it can also expose us to, as we've just seen here. So it's an encouragement to every teacher that let's always know the policies that are there in our schools that are guarding these learners' privacy. We've seen schools even getting penalized for some of these things. Maybe you hear a photo of a student is leaked outside and all that. So before we are caught unaware, before we get ourselves into that mix, please let us make sure that we know the rights of these learners. Let's make sure that we revisit the school's policy. What is our school saying about data privacy for these learners? What do I need to know as a teacher, maybe locally and internationally? So I think it's something that we all need to understand. As we wind up the show today, I will just want you to also share with the teachers out there, because we have those who are just getting into using this technology. Ideally, some people they fear. They're just scared. Even teachers get scared. Even teachers get scared. We think that we've matured and maybe we are professionals, but there is that anxiety that comes when you want to try something new. So what will you advise a teacher who is just getting to start to learn how to use these? Because remember, there are some who are even hearing some of these tools for the first time, as we mentioned here, and we need to encourage them to go there, use them. So what will you tell them, Mr. Obura?
Just go out there and explore. Go out there and explore. There's one open university called YouTube.
Free for all.
Is free for all. Sure. You can literally learn anything you want to learn on YouTube. It is the first place you go to. For me, when I'm crafting my lessons and I need a nice video, I would go to YouTube. So it is probably the one platform that I visit most, because either you're looking to learn something, there's a lot of skills that you can build just by yourself. And earlier on, we were talking about interest. If there's something you need to do and you don't know how to do it, just go out there and find out. Chances are you will find a YouTube video that will either explain it to you the way you like, or it will tell you a bit of it,
Yes.
and then you join the dots,
Yeah.
and you'll be able to improve your skills. So just be creative. Go out there, try them out, and so that you know how far they can take you, what their limitations are, so that you're able to find the ones that work for you. Earlier on, we had talked about finding something that works for you.
Yes.
And Moureen told us she has this model that works for her.
Yeah.
So go out there and explore.
Moureen?
Well, on my side, I would say join communities that embrace such kind of technology. The first group I would advise, Tufunzeni. Welcome to Tufunzeni. In Tufunzeni, we take care of literally everything, technology, whatever you want. So join a community like Tufunzeni. You're going to experience so much that you never ever thought that existed. We have workshops, we have trainings, we have online meetings on Tuesdays, even the IMIEEs. We have literally everything for you. So just join Tufunzeni community. It is one among the best communities in the world. Secondly, start small. Don't be in a hurry. Just start small and then allow yourself to learn something slowly. There's no rush, all right? So just start small, join a community, Moso Tufunzeni, you'll love it. You'll love it. You'll meet me there.
I really agree with joining a community. Sometimes these things, they scare when you're alone. But when you have somebody like Moureen Obura here and you have Mr. Sagao, these people, and you have them explaining to you, maybe holding your hands, you'll find that it's just a simple thing that you're just scared of. You know, sometimes you ask yourself, if a child can do it, why not us? Now, let's also give out, what are some of these apps or resources that you would want teachers to go and explore as we now close it?
Well, I have so many. Hey,
just give us a few.
Okay,
in
I'll give you a few.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yes.
I just list.
Yes.
We have PhET simulation. PhET simulation will help you in physics, chemistry, biology. We have Z-Space. Z-Space is going to help you in biology, more so the human anatomy. We have Chem Collective. We have virtual labs. We have Kahoot. We have quizzes. We have Jamboard. We have, oh God, there's so many. ETC.
Don't finish. Teachers, there's formative. Formative helps you to create assessments, run assessments, etc. Use Canva for creating all those nice posters and worksheets in the classroom. Canva is great. Kahoot for gamification, making your learning enjoyable, checking students' understanding. We have GeoGebra for maths. PhET simulations has been mentioned. Before you go even to those ones, go into Google Workspace.
Yeah.
Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides. Those ones are very easily available that you can use. And also in Google, you have Google Classroom. You can post notes there, videos, everything that you need to know. So start from there. And as someone said, start small. And then you add small to small, it will become very Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Maybe I can add some two websites. So not even webs, even some short courses. So if you're a teacher there asking yourself, how do I start? Start with the simplest courses on Coursera. Like we have one by UNESCO called The Digital Teacher. So that one is going to expose you to so many online technology tools that you can use. Also, for the PhET simulation, if you don't know how to use them, we have now the PhET simulation course under Coursera. We also have the Khan Academy website. In their website, they have literally the resources, whatever you want as a teacher, as a science teacher, maths teacher, English teacher. Just go there and don't just stay at home scrolling TikTok and Instagram. No, just go learn something out there.
And if you want a shortcut, find Moureen.
Teachers, I think you know richer than before with all these tools combined together will make perfect classrooms. Thank you so much, my fellow colleagues, for joining. And until next time, let's keep it Tufunzeni.